Hey, it's John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and it's The Entrepreneurial You, the show for dedicated and passionate Caribbean entrepreneurs seeking daily inspiration, brought to you by author, speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur Heneka Watkis-Porter. You must be prepared to ignite.
When folks are working in their organizations and in their offices, they are almost clothed by the organization's IT security protection. And so there's a comfort in knowing that you are within our scheme of protection. However, now that you're working remotely, we are not that comfortable anymore. So here are all these other things that has to happen with respect to the software that they're using. So for us, one of the big recommendations that we make to all of our customers is switching on multi-factor authentication. And of course, strengthening passwords. And of course, ensuring that the connectivity between you and the office or you and the internet is secure. So whether it's VPNs, encryption. So there's a whole host of things that now some folks used to have it as additional software or additional work that somebody else had to do. A lot of technology now have to build that in to ensure that their applications are chosen over other applications because they can prove that it is now safe.
Hi, this is Heneka. I'm so glad you took the time to stop by today. In Jamaican parlance, Wagwan, me glad say a dial. This episode is sponsored by HenekaWatkis-Porter.com as well as the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Now on HenekaWatkis-Porter.com, you can visit us for blogs, resources, books, online podcast courses, podcasts, and more. If you are new to the Entrepreneurial You podcast, be sure to check out past episodes with guests such as John Lee Dumas, Patrice Washington, Seth Godin, Richard Branson, Amy Porterfield, and a host of other game changers.
We needed to raise capital, but our experience with local financial institutions was that they were cautious and slow to act, and interest rates were far too high. We had real concerns about financing our business through outside equity investors and the possibility of interference. Could we get a fair valuation for our business? We had our own ideas about the business and its value. Should I go the traditional route of bank financing, or should I try the Jamaica Stock Exchange? So we made a call and experienced transformation of our business through conversations. I'm John Mahfood, CEO of Jamaican Teas, and we're listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Give us a call today at 876-967-3271 to begin your transformation through conversation. We want to see your company listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
And now, here's today's episode. The first rule of any technology used in business is that automation applied to an efficient operation will magnify the efficiency. The second is that automation applied to an inefficient operation will magnify the inefficiency. Bill Gates. Greetings, my peak performer. I trust that you're doing okay, even in this pandemic. I want to welcome you to episode 169 of the Entrepreneurial You podcast. I'm your host, of course, Heneka Watkis-Porter. Today's episode is with Christopher Record. Chris is the CEO for the leading information technology support organization tTech Limited, Jamaica's only pure play IT outsourcing and managed services provider. Chris has 33 years of experience in delivery and implementation of information technology solutions and is a regular speaker on technology in the IT industry in Jamaica. For fun, Chris writes a column in the Jamaica Observer and hosts wine-related events in Jamaica and the USA. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation on making IT work during a pandemic. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you so very much for having me, Heneka.
It's my absolute pleasure. And before we get into our conversation, what's your favorite thing about being Jamaican?
My favorite thing about being Jamaican is that there's a creative juice that seems to just flow through our DNA in this geographic space that seems to allow a lot of our entrepreneurs to just be able to think up and create anything.
I absolutely agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. So let's dive into our topic for today, making IT work during a pandemic. Now, you run a very successful IT company in Jamaica. First of all, tell me a little about your organization, what it is that you're doing for Jamaicans or economy. What is it that you focus on?
So when the founder of the company, our current chairman, Teddy Alexander, had the idea, he was the CIO for one of the Caribbean's largest company, Grace Kennedy Limited. And the opportunity presented itself after Grace was going through some reorganization, looking at how to lower costs in the central offices and how to, start to maximize use of innovation. But most importantly, it was a cost reduction measure. Teddy spent some time in North America. Interestingly enough, I worked for the company in Florida who provided outsourcing services to him at the time. At the time, he was CEO of Grace Kennedy USA. While he also was the CIO of the company. He saw an opportunity when the Grace organization thought that there was some way to leverage the use of centralized services, especially technology, to share among the organization. And he came in with a proposal to take over the outsourcing, take over the management of all the entire infrastructure. And he did it. And when they brought in external consultants to measure it, he actually was able to lower the cost of delivering those services by 20%. So it was successful for him and successful for the Grace organization. And that's one of our oldest contracts, not the oldest, they weren't the first customer. And so that experience and that foresight by our founder, Teddy Alexander, created what is now tTech. A number of folks thought that tTech is a part of Grace. No, tTech is a separate entity. It was started by 4 ex-Grace Kennedy team members, and we have grown ever since. We're now at 45 persons. We're now a listed company, and our whole aim is to deliver information technology services to our customers and deliver it in an insanely good manner. We internally talk in the company about delivering IT services and delivering insanely good IT services. So that is a quick, not at a very high level, what specifically we do in these outsourcing services. They're broken down in about 6 areas. Well, we began business by managing and monitoring the infrastructure, mainly networking, and server infrastructure was also included. And then eventually, once you have network and server infrastructure being managed and monitored, one has to now start to figure out how to secure it. So securing that infrastructure was another set of services that was rolled in. And then several years after, the questions around, well, okay, guys, you guys are monitoring and managing all that infrastructure. Can you help us with our service desk needs? In other words, responding to the actual desk side needs of folks having IT challenges. That was handled internally, and then that was handed over to us as another service. That was the 4th service we started delivering. And then as time went on, cloud came about. Well, cloud been around, but the concept of moving some of the services to cloud. So we start doing some cloud migration services and, Exchange Online, Office 365 right now. And then last but not least, when you're the IT information technology provider, advisor in any organization or connected to any organization, you're going to start to get a lot of requests for assistance around helping to make decisions with software selection, with project management. So one of the latest divisions or the set of services was around consulting and consultation, helping to make decisions and implement software. So those are the range of services that we offer in general. And we have up to about 65, 70 customers now that we offer those to, starting from the first year when we did only 2.
Sounds like a very full-scale operation, as it were. So let's now move into getting some of your opinions, right? Like, what is the role of information systems in a pandemic, in preparing for a pandemic? Well, we couldn't have prepared for this because we didn't know, but like, it's happening now. So what's the role of information systems? in your mind?
Let me correct you about not knowing. The fact is that there are organizations out there that had prepared for something like this. We were not sure exactly how something like this would look like, but anyone who does enterprise risk management and any sort of risk assessments and create risk registers, if you work with any of the large consulting organizations, what they term as black swan events will be part of the discussion. And black swan event, that came from the whole story of hundreds of years ago. In Europe, no one has ever seen something like a black swan, and so they believe it didn't exist until explorers went to Australia, saw a black swan, and there's a book that is around that whole idea and concept of seeing and preparing for things that you have never seen before. So there are folks that have black swan events on their risk register, and so some folks in fact were prepared for something like this. But as I said, the details specifically, maybe not. So where does technology fall? So technology helps in that whole risk assessment and the risk assessment registration and modeling data that you have around what if our supply chain is hampered? What if we can't physically deliver to our customers? What if we can't get payment for our customers? So information technology plays a part on the customer side, but information technology also plays a part on the side of governments and administration, whereas we're seeing a tremendous amount of discourse specifically right now around contact tracing and how do you automate something like that. Very recently, we saw and heard the announcements of two of the major rivals in mobile and operating systems around the world, that of Apple and Google, coming together to actually create this framework and software infrastructure that allows for, if you allow it, automated contact tracing. And so preparation for a pandemic or a black swan event, using the risk terms, information technology spans end to end the dissemination of information, allowing teams to be able to collaborate around preparedness. Here in Jamaica, let's just look at a specific situation around our BPO industry, because that, of course, has been topical. It has been in the news. And we saw where a huge percentage of our contacts now and our positive cases emanated out of one specific cluster, using the terms that they use. And if we had certain types of technology applied and in place, one would argue that spread would have been drastically reduced if the right collaboration, the right information dissemination was carried out. And of course, the discipline of the folks to actually heed the advice, right? So the role of information systems in general is, I think globally spans so many areas of pandemic preparedness. Those are just a few that popped to my mind.
And so what is very clear is that proper what-if scenarios need to be done. Those analyses need to be done while you cannot, ever prepare for a specific situation to a T, but having, those scenarios in place, doing those what-if scenarios can help us to mitigate against the effects.
Correct. And, also depending on which end of the spectrum you are as a constituent in all of this. So are you looking at it from a governance standpoint? Are you part of policy making around risk reduction, looking at pandemics, or are you part of the healthcare system? Are you just a customer? Are you just the end user? Where in the ecosystem are you with respect to pandemic preparation or any sort of disaster preparation? And so the correct touch points as part of that ecosystem, information technology plays a tremendous amount. But the key thing is the communication and the instant verification of information, because one of the big things that, as we all have seen and heard over the last 4 or 5 years is this new term, well, not that new, but fake news, and being able to figure out what is real and what is fake, and ensuring that our constituents, everyone who's part of our ecosystem, is connected to accurate sources, and we are getting information from accurate sources.
In your mind, how do you think technology will change after this whole COVID-19 pandemic is over? I mean, we've seen how it can help us to prepare and so on. And we're going to look at what obtains now, how people have been drastically changing the way they do business. But I guess with that in mind, we can also look at how will the technology change, and we can start to talk about some of the changes that we're already seeing right now.
All right, let's look at one specific application. Let's look at Zoom. Last year, the information coming from Zoom indicates that their average daily in the December timeframe users was in the region of 10 million, right? In the middle of March, the data that they sent out to the public indicates that within that 3-month period, daily usage went up to 200 million. So that one application alone, the use cases that they've had to prepare for. So one of the things that maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, in my role, I've had to advise customers as to what technologies to use, how to make communication. So of course, in my deep research around Zoom, I started to discover all the whole Zoom bombing issue, all the issues with security with respect to Zoom. And so, of course, I had to make recommendations to all my customers to use Microsoft Teams. But as I was doing all of that research, I saw the changes that Zoom made from the beginning of when the World Health Organization deemed COVID-19 a pandemic on March 11th. All the protocols that global government started putting in place, of course, people were working remotely in droves. And of course, Zoom was one of the tools that had to be adopted and get used and very, very quickly by everybody. So the changes that one application alone made, mainly in the area of privacy and security. So one area of change is around privacy and security. When folks are working in their organizations and in their offices, they are almost clothed by the organization's IT security protection. And so there's a comfort in knowing that you are within our scheme of protection. However, now that you're working remotely, we are not that comfortable anymore. So here are all these other things that has to happen with respect to the software that they're using. So for us, one of the big recommendations that we make to all of our customers is switching on multi-factor authentication. And of course, strengthening passwords. And of course, ensuring that the connectivity between you and the office or you and the internet is secure. So whether it's VPNs, encryption. So there's a whole host of things that now some folks used to have it as additional software or additional work that somebody else had to do. A lot of technology now have to build that in to ensure that their applications are chosen over other applications because they can prove that it is now safe. If you look at all the changes that go back to the first example I used, Zoom has made over the last 2 months, it is, I mean, they have thrown resources and people, time, money to ensure that they build back the confidence that was lost in their platform, because all the big governmental agencies worldwide jumped off the platform as soon as a lot of these security loopholes were discovered and privacy leakages were discovered. So they have been working assiduously to ensure that they caulk all those holes and try to build back that confidence. So that's a big area of change, IT security and privacy. Other areas of change are, well, it's not technology, but your question was how would technology change and how technology change us. changing us. My wife and I had this discussion just this week about the readiness of our senior folks. We're talking about our various family members who are a lot senior and how they have had to try to adapt to this hyper use of technology to do everything. So some of our folks have, gotten used to pampering that some supermarkets give them. So, for example, folks who turn up at a supermarket to have their resident packers already have half of their supermarket supplies already packed. One would say that's the Upper St. Andrew way. And
Upper St. Andrew.
Upper St. Andrew. No, it's not being allowed anymore because the supermarket now has to processize that and systemize that so that all their customers get that same treatment. So what's been happening now, they've had now set up an app or set up a form that's emailed in. And so folks who they never had to fill out any form and email or send in anything like that, they used to just call up their favorite packer or the favorite, whatever the role the person is, and have them set up everything for them because they know the brands. Now we have to kind of say, well, hold on. We have a whole lot more people asking for the service now. How do we now use technology to ensure that more people can have access to that service? So change there. And these are very simple, basic changes we're using as examples because today, I'm not sure what date it's going to be aired, but there was a hackathon that was organized by a large commercial bank and an innovation organization here recently. And one of the things that had to happen as part of the whole preparing for this hackathon is some problem statements from all the sponsors. And I wear a hat with several other organizations that were sponsors, and I sat on the call with the technology minister, all the various big sponsors. And there are lots of use case problem statements by everyone from the Jamaica Constabulary Force all the way to private sector organization of Jamaica to bank, National Commercial Bank, that outlines needs that people now have, knowing that all of a sudden no more than a certain amount of people can go into a supermarket anymore. No more than a certain amount of people can go in a banking hall. No more than a certain amount of people folks over 65 not allowed to go certain places anymore. So how are they going to get their services? There's a fair amount of problem statements that were posed to these hackathons to come up with solutions. Education, massive, right? One of the hats I wear, I'm the chairman of eLearning Jamaica Limited. I've been on the board for several years. And
e-learning is for our overseas listeners.
E-learning organization provides solutions to the government of Jamaica, mainly the Ministry of Education, around digitizing the delivery of educations to its students and providing the tools for the teachers to deliver that education. So we are the in-between partner. We are the customer of the Ministry of Education. We are the ones that help to come up with the concepts and ideas of what labs are going to go into the schools, what technologies that we are recommending to the teachers to use, what labs we are installing and implementing, and our team goes out and do all that work. So we have a situation right now where we have had years of putting labs in schools. A more recent project we did was a tablets in schools initiative where we had a pilot. A number of schools were selected. We're now going to full delivery of that solution right now. And there is a big gap. And so one of the big gaps right now is not enough people have tablets because the project wasn't fully rolled out before this pandemic appeared. And then for the few that have technology access, not all the teachers have the ability and understanding of how to use the technology to deliver their curriculum. So there's this massive gap between the teaching and learning, and we have to figure out a way. So you talk about change. The area of education is going to be massively changed. And of course, last but not least is the use of real estate, because a number of us have had to work from home recently. So we do have a situation where all of a sudden we're realizing that, do we really need all of this real estate that we have been paying for, that we've been clamoring? Because some of us, including my organization, we now realize that the use of technology, especially technology that we deliver the services, not just the technology that we're using to use our own internal productivity in the office, but the technologies that we're using to deliver our services to our customer. All of a sudden, we are realizing that we have increased productivity with our help desk and increased productivity with our problem resolution. So those are some of the changes that we are experiencing within our organization, tTech, and with a number of other folks that I've spoken to. So I hope we have enough discourse and discussion around how technology will change us and how some technology will change.
We certainly have. And at this time, Chris, I'm going to ask you just to wrap up with your final thoughts about, this whole IT, information technology services systems in a pandemic. And after you've done that, please feel free to share your contact information. How might my community members get in touch with you?
The short wrap up is that the future, that digital future that we've all been talking about, we've been talking about for a while, that digital future is now. The quotation you read at the top of the discussion was a very timely one. Interestingly enough, I have in front of me a book that I dug up, a book that was written 19 years ago by the same person that made that quotation. The book I have in front of me is Business at the Speed of Thought.
Yeah, I remember that book.
Yes, one of the things I went through is that I went through the chapter on government, talking about take government to the people. And in summary, all I'm saying is that that digital future is right now. And a number of organizations that I've been talking to, digital transformation projects that have been languishing over the last 2 to 3 years, have a fair amount of them. They have all happened in the last 2 to 3 months. So, as the old saying goes, where there's a will, there's a way. Right? And so a massive will has come across everyone, not controlled by them, because for the first time in our entire history, we have had one situation affecting the entire peoples of the earth in the same way at the very same time. And we have all the communication in front of us that we are seeing and experiencing what's going on all at the same time. And so the beauty is that we can, sorry to call anything like this in beauty, but we can look to see the folks who, for example, Wuhan, China, which was ground zero, what are they doing now? So we can make decisions around what lessons we're learning from that and not to waste those lessons. And so that digital future is now. For anyone who had doubt as to how information technology can help, whether it's just general IT or the broader umbrella of information communication technology, of ICT, we definitely see that without that, we would not have been able to maintain some semblance of connectivity, of communication with our team members, of continuous collaboration. I mean, I'm helping some customers right now run multiple board meetings, everything using applications like Microsoft Teams. Because that's a preferred app for us. We're a Microsoft representative here in Jamaica, and so so at a high level, that digital future is now, and we can be found at all channels online. So tTech, we have a website, www.ttech.com.jm. And we are on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, although I'm not a big Twitter person.
I realize that.
It's for me, again, working in digital for the last over 30 years. You look at these methods of communication come and go, and you choose what you're going to work with, what you're not going to work with. And I'm not a big Twitter person. I am on it. I will glance in it every now and then. But hey, enough and no more for me.
All right. Thank you so much, Christopher Record. It has been a pleasure. You've shared a mouthful with us, and I'm sure my community is more informed, and they look forward to even connecting with you to learn more about what tTech is doing and what you are doing as well, because you're doing amazing stuff as well, playing a great role in the Jamaican society. So thank you for the work that you do.
Heneka, thank you very much for the work that you do. And I've listened to a number of your podcasts, and they have been very, very informative. I congratulate you on your global reach, because a number of the speakers that you have been able to have as guests I was like, wow, Heneka reached some of these guys. I mean, some of my favorites like a Seth Godin and these guys, amazing stuff. So keep doing what you're doing and keep lifting the level and keep using all the various, digital transformation tools to communicate, and let's take Jamaica and the Caribbean to the next level.
Thank you so much. I'm humbled by that. And thank you, my peak performer, for tuning into this episode with Christopher Record. I really look forward to connecting with you next week. And I want to remind you that my latest book, Podcast Power, the Quick Start Guide to Launching and Leveling Up Your Brand, is available on Amazon, and it's available in print and print copy as well as Kindle. So if you just want to get the Kindle, you're a Kindle person, or you want to, have a book in your hand and flip the pages, whatever, just go to Amazon.com, you'll find it, or you can go to Watkis-Porter.com and visit the book tab. Now, this step-by-step guide teaches, among other things, why you need to start a podcast now, how to start one, finding guests for your podcast, how to make money, how to leverage it to build a brand, and just so many other things. So go get your copy now at Amazon. And I want to close with a point of hope. And especially in this particular season, we need hope more than ever before. So here's my point of hope. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Romans 15, verse 13. Thank you for tuning in. Share this episode if it means something to you. If you find value in it, share it. I look forward to connecting with you again. Walk good.